Morning, Ralph. Morning, Sam.
Tammy K. Billings is in the house today. If you know anything about Tammy, she's been a veteran in this restaurant industry. She's been around for a while, and I'll let her tell everyone about her bona fides. She's been quietly connecting people with jobs behind the scenes for years. And she's got some big plans to take that work to the next level. I'm really pumped to have Tammy with us today. Tammy, how you doing?
Hey, I'm great. Thanks for inviting me.
Well,
I think I said this before, but I honestly don't get asked to do these things a lot because generally I'm trying to find opportunities for others. So thank you for asking me.
I remember when we first met each other, even though we've been in the industry together for the better part of 13, 14 years, at least as long as I've been in it, we didn't get to actually meet
Yeah.
until about a year ago or so, which is kind of kooky, but that's the deal with marketing. Marketing people
That's
are in
because
the background.
the marketing people stay in the office. And so as a salesperson, I bet I knew some of your salespeople, right? You were just the wizard pulling the strings in the back.
Thank you for helping me come out of my shell.
That's not because of me.
Well, hey, for everybody that's listening out there, it'll be tough for me to rattle off Tammy's whole bio, but why don't you give everyone a little bit of a background?
Sure. Basically, I started in restaurants because I convinced someone to hire me as a special projects person for LA Live in downtown Los Angeles. We had 14 restaurants and we opened during the recession. Trying to convince people to come to downtown, which was not what it is today, without any money in their bank accounts, their houses being foreclosed on, to come spend money at an expensive restaurant
Yeah.
outside of the Laker game. It was challenging. I became a de facto restaurant marketing consultant. When I left, pretty much all of the 14 tenants asked me to come work for them. So I interviewed for several of them. I ended up taking a job with Westfield, but then SBE hired me. And so I ran their restaurants and nightlife for a year. I call that a tour of duty. And then Grow Concepts hired me to be their head of marketing. Fishbowl was one of my vendors. They were transforming from an email services company. I was one of the early adopters of their products. So they brought me over and funny story, they asked me, do we want to be an account manager or a salesperson? I said, I don't know what an account manager does, but I hate salespeople. So I don't want to do that job.
Okay.
Well, an account manager is like a salesperson. But all of my clients were super happy because I would walk into their offices and say, let me help you with this. I used it this way. And I really knew the product. I'd always gravitated towards data and tech as an account manager. Within 3 months, the COO forced me to move to sales. I threw a fit. I was like, I'm going to be terrible. I don't lie. I'm not pushy. And I refuse to make cold calls. Salespeople are stupid. That's what I told my boss.
This is the beginning of a beautiful relationship and a beautiful journey.
And he just kind of
Just
rolled his
kicking and
eyes and was
screaming.
like, just do what you do and you're going to be fine. So there were instances where I said, I refuse to do that because that's my integrity, my reputation. I was there for about a year, but have been in restaurant tech now ever since. I went to Marketing Vitals and helped grew them to almost 5 million in ARR. And then COVID hit and then worked at Wisely. I was there for only 15 months, but helped them figure out how to sell beyond full service.
Yep.
And that landed us a sale to Olo for a nice big chunk of change. And then from there, I've been working with multiple startups, helping them navigate the restaurant space and grow their client list, really doing sales, marketing, and
Right.
partnerships.
Yeah, it's a really cool journey because, like a lot of us, you found your way navigating through an industry in roles that you didn't necessarily have a background in, but you learned as you went. And you
Mhm.
took all of these different skills that you collected along the way. Now here you are years later with all of this knowledge, all of this experience, and you're one of the true Sherpas, I think, in our industry. No, but for real.
This is where you need to flash an image of a Sherpa on the
Yeah,
screen.
cue the sheep.
Cue the
But
shape.
so, with that in mind, clearly a passion of yours is about empowering people to find the right role for them. Tammy has been, if you see her on LinkedIn, she's always popping out these marketing role, IT role, operations.
Yeah, I'll tell you the story of why I do it. People don't know this. Post recession, we got a new CMO at LA Live, and I was one of the first ones to go. From there, I lost 6 jobs in 4 years.
Ooh,
LinkedIn was new. And I started using LinkedIn immediately because I got that it was the Facebook for business. I
yeah,
was encouraging people to join. And I could see that it would be a good way long term in my career to keep connections with people,
yeah.
like a digital phone book. I was really active on LinkedIn. I instantly had a lot of followers. I got good at using it to find jobs. I used to keep a list of recruiters because every time I lost my job, I'd have to go get another one. So I'd get better jobs, more money. I had great experience. Employers would cry when they let me go, but I would lose my job. It was disheartening. There's no lower point than when you are without a job or without some sort of purpose. It's terrible. I understand how low people feel in that moment. I am that asshole.
You
I
can
cut the line.
fucking do whatever you want.
Great. So I'm the asshole that I hear that you got fired and I call you that day.
Yeah.
I say, I heard you got fired. It totally sucks. You get 24 hours to cry about it, and then let's talk tomorrow about the plan. And I pick up the phone and do that for people that I know or that I care about. And some people will do it to me, like they'll call the next day. I don't know what to do. I'm so lost. At one point during COVID, I had started building a website where I was giving advice because I say the same thing over and over to candidates when they've either just lost their job or looking for a job. I coach a ton of people on either getting like new positions, moving up in their organization, but I don't charge for it, which I know Fred LaFranc, if he's listening, is already screaming at me for saying that. But I also don't have more capacity. Outside of this podcast, I haven't advertised that or told people.
That's
People
right.
just will say, hey, can you talk to this person? Here's what they need.
You've been giving a lot of thought to how to put structure around this, right? It's
Mhm.
one thing to put together a website with advice, phoning a friend, giving them a shoulder to cry on and some tough love, but how can you build something that, I don't have the stats in front of me, but we
Yeah.
know anecdotally that there have been a tremendous amount of rifts this year, last year, the year before that. Just thousands and thousands of people let go
Mhm.
for one reason or another. And there are obviously tons of reasons for this, but generally speaking, it's the economy.
Yeah.
How do you, this industry at the same time is small enough and tight enough and together enough that if you stick with it, you can find the right place for you. So,
I think those are points in time. It's very rare that you meet that person that's been with the company 15, 16 years. They still exist in our business for sure because we're one of the few industries where you can start as the cook or a busboy or a hostess and work your way up to being CEO, CMO.
that does
Pardon
happen.
me. It happens. And I think what's really lovely about our industry is that we are one of the few industries where you really can still do that. You can start in a restaurant and make a living and support a family. Some of the things I hear from people sometimes when I'm in restaurants, I'll hear from 30 to 40-year-olds where they're burnt out. They've been working in a restaurant since college. They're working nights. They want to have a family now. And the first thing I say to them is, well, what vendors do you work with? And they're
Yeah.
like, what do you mean? I said, are your vendors here after 5 p.m.? Are your vendors here on weekends? No, their vendors are at home because their jobs are Monday through Friday. And
Right.
I say, well, why don't you reach out to some of your vendors? They know you. They like your that industry knowledge on the other side of the table is so valuable. And so I coach people to do that all the time. And similarly, from the other side, if you're on the vendor side, you
Yeah.
understand this thing really well. Move over and do that for a client.
That is great advice because I used to work for a very large advertising agency in
Right?
Boston. I had clients like General Motors and AstraZeneca. And you always say to yourself when you're working on the agency side, it must be amazing working for these brands to be able to clock in and clock out, give the agency a directive, have it be done,
Yeah.
even though they're working till midnight. That's how I got there. I
Yeah.
got hired by a company that was really interested in my agency experience.
Exactly, because they want you to then come in and either build that model in the organization or help them navigate it.
That's
That's something I coach people on all the time. If you're doing the loyalty and CRM work for your company and you lose your job, go see one of the vendors, right? Because they
yeah.
need an account manager who can coach their clients on how to use the solution. Same thing in IT. And my theory is that the vendors know about the restaurant jobs that are open. If more people collaborated and shared, which is the whole purpose of why I take 5 seconds, ops role, marketing role, IT role. The hardest thing for me is when I don't know how to categorize the role. I'm like,
It-
I don't know what this one is. It sounds really awesome though.
yeah.
Um,
Tell me a story
sure.
about how you may have helped somebody get a role.
The first thing I do is it's a lot like Fight Club. We don't talk about Fight Club, right? I ask people once I'm done working with them, I generally ask them not to share. So if people haven't heard, feel free if this is posted, if you want to tag yourself, but I don't like to out people. The other thing is because I'm in sales and I sell to restaurant company
Right.
A and I sell to restaurant company B. If I take an employee from A and give it to B, B is happy with me, but A is not.
Mm.
So I don't want them to know. Recently, a friend of mine is the CEO of a company and he had said, hey, I'm going to help fill a new position with Red Lobster. Can you give me some names? So I went through my network and gave him a list of names. It took me about 5-10 minutes,
Yeah.
ended up hiring one of those individuals. So if they had gone to a recruitment firm, it would have paid 30% of that person's salary. This is already for a company that's in turnaround. If you want people with industry experience,
Right.
then coming to somebody like me and asking for that list, I just generate it. And that's also why people want to be in my network. That helps me in my day job because I'm in sales. Knowing people and knowing that I'm not just a salesperson, they usually will take my calls. And if they want my widget, they'll buy it. They don't. It's not a quid pro quo. I don't hold anyone's feet to the fire, but I just like a swing.
You are a connector. You really
Yeah.
are the connector. I love that. That's so cool. I mean, you use your network.
Yeah.
Isn't that the purpose of LinkedIn anyway? Sometimes we get caught up in the LinkedIn
Yeah.
world of look at me.
Sales inquiries. I can tell you people that reach out to me and sell me anything on LinkedIn, I disconnect. And I'm in sales. I had somebody who tricked me recently. They did a good job. I connected with them, and within 24 hours, they were peddling their wares. I wrote back and said, I did not connect with you to be sold to, and I blocked their profile.
Hey,
I don't do it.
listen, there are a lot of folks in our industry that are connection collectors,
Yes.
right? Oh, I have 20,000 connections. I have 15,000 connections. I think I have 2,400 connections, but every single one of them, I probably know them all.
That's
I know them all.
that's how I am. And I think I'm up to 6,500, which I'm proud of.
That's
And
amazing.
I can
Yeah.
go through that network and I can go, I know
Right.
this person from this. Here's a tip for people listening. When you reach out to connect with somebody for the first time on LinkedIn that you met like at a conference, do this. Paul, it was great meeting you last week at the Meg conference. Because a year from now, when you forget how you met Paul, you can go to your message history, and the first message basically says exactly where you met. And then you
Right.
say that, yeah, it's been about a year since I saw you, right? At the Meg conference.
Yeah.
You instantly feel like, I remember you.
Yeah. No CRM required, right? Literally
Wow,
use
it's
your
a big
LinkedIn as
stamp
your.
on it. Like, this is not rocket science.
That's right.
I started teaching last year with some of my girlfriends, Lauren Selman and Crystal Gitman, or now Craven.
Yeah.
We started a women's group in the
Is
industry
this
and
work?
yeah, Worth. And I
Right.
think you've had Lauren on the show. But then we were invited to the Whirl event, the Women in Restaurant Leadership. We did a session on in-person networking, sort of the good, the bad, and the ugly. I do think that there's some value in teaching people how to better network.
Well, give me a few points about how job seekers might be able to leverage their networks more effectively.
Yeah. I tell people, don't bother connecting with the HR person. The HR person is doing the work that somebody else, right? They're going to find the candidates. Somebody else is going to interview them and whatever. And the bigger the company, the harder it is to break through these things. Who do you know? It can be your peers. So if Paul, you and I do the same job, we're both marketing directors, you get tapped for an opportunity, which you're like, I'm not relocating, but Tammy, she's my friend and she would relocate. And this is a great opportunity. I'm going to tell her, the recruiter, about her. Those are really simple ways, but people don't do that. They're like, it's top secret. They're interviewing for this job. So using your network in that way, peer-to-peer sharing is one thing. And then I think connecting with people. If I'm a marketer, I will go reach out to the CEO. Really like your
Yeah.
company. Hear what I'm not selling them anything. I'm in marketing, would love to connect here just so you can start to learn a little bit about me in case there's an opportunity in the future.
That's it, right? It is like a give and a take. I like what you said earlier about not being kind, number one,
Yeah.
is critically important, but also opening up about where you met that person, being direct about where we met, what we did, what we talked about. These are helpful things because that person may have met 1,000 people that day. Anything that can help jog their memory, something memorable that was said, something memorable that you did. And then not asking so directly, hey, do you need help right now?
Hire me.
Yeah, hire me.
And be direct. I always tell people the worst thing, as someone asked me for help recently in finding them a job. And I said, well, what do you want to do? I can do anything. And I said, I can't help you.
Yeah.
Because you can't do anything. That doesn't tell me, like, no one's going to hire you if you can do anything. What they want to know is I am the best at this. This is what I'm good at. This is my superpower. This is how I'm going to help you and your organization and your company.
Yeah.
I met this woman pitching. I went into a client's offices. I was working at Marketing Vitals, pitched, and it was her and another young woman in the room. And after the presentation, she's like, you did such an amazing job presenting. I started laughing. I said, well, are you going to buy from me? She goes, no. We laughed. And I said, well, she goes, why not? I said, she's like, we don't have the budget. We don't have this. And I don't think we're sophisticated enough for where you guys are. But she had 1,000 reasons and they were valid. And she's like, but really, I learned so much. A week later, I had sent her an email. She didn't respond. And then the other woman on the chain reached out to me and she said, hey, she was let go.
Oh my.
I called her up. She didn't answer. She didn't know my number.
Yeah.
And I left her a message and I was like, hey, this is Tammy Billings. We met a week ago to help people find jobs. And I think you have a great background. I know of some roles. Would you call me? She calls me up, got her a couple interviews. Those didn't work out. But about 2 months later, she was interviewing for a role where I knew the CEO. And she said, hey, I'm interviewing. What do you know about this company? I said, I know them really well. I said, yeah. So I sent the CEO a text and was like, hey, I hear you're interviewing for this person. I don't know her well. We just met here. I said, but I got a really great impression and great culture team sort of person. And they were big on that. So yeah, got the job.
Tammy K. Billings.
That's like in a sales meeting. I had a woman call me up and say, I'm working like a dog in these restaurants. I'm working 16 hours a day, 6 days a week. I need to get out. I love tech and data. And I had just had a CMO at a restaurant tech company say, I'm looking for a marketing person, like someone I can grow.
Yeah.
And their match wasn't quite a fit. The marketer was looking for somebody more junior, and this marketer was a little more senior. I said, look, she'd be great. She's looking for digital, looking to move. She has this experience. She knows the industry. They changed the job for her. See, because it's about finding the right fit.
That's right. I mean, unless you're a rocket scientist, right?
Yeah.
You can learn anything. There's a YouTube video out there that'll teach you how to do it.
Right. I'm hiring right now for a junior level marketing person. Don't send me applications. I already have too many.
There's junior level marketing people looking for work.
One of the things I always look for is, do you want to learn? Are you curious? I can't teach you to care. I can't teach you to be on time. I can't teach you to be a decent human being, but I can teach you the job.
Well, that's a great segue. to where we want to go next, because
Sure.
I know that you've had this burning passion to develop this new idea or this new
Mhm.
model for career development for professionals. Could Everybody talks about changing the game, but the reality is that the game needs to be changed. It's like salespeople and vendors. Do the brands really need any more salespeople banging them over the head, like asking for demos?
They
Or
don't, which is a whole other show we could do because that's emerging in our space.
I've got some people lined up for this pod that want to talk about that. But tell us a little bit about what you're thinking about, how you can change the model for people that are either changing careers or for brands or vendors that want to find the right fit.
Yeah, I think there's so much that's broken with hiring and recruiting. I've had this passion for creating this industry specific job site for a long time. I had a partner a few years ago and they ended up pursuing something and put up a job board, which I was like, that's not really what, like, so my broad idea, and I do need a development partner. If you or anybody else is listening that's
Yeah,
like,
we're
oh my
going to talk
God, he's
offline.
on to something, call me. My thesis is this: the CMO job, CFO job, CIO job from one restaurant company to the next is not that different. What varies is the company, it was public, private, franchise, not, size, service model, and the personalities of the people in the job. But the actual work is not that different.
Right.
POS might be different, software solutions might be different, but the work is not that different. So, can we not use structured data to better identify and fill candidates? So, if I develop the structured data around the roles, then people can essentially fill out a form. But that means that's searchable and I can query people, right? So now I've got a database of data. So now I've got all these data points on these people so I can more easily search and filter. That's kind of step one, using structured data. And if you
Right.
think about LinkedIn and Indeed, none of that is structured because candidly, resumes are dead. I can
Right.
go online right now and ask ChatGPT or Grok or whoever to write me a resume for this job. I similarly asked it to write a job description. It's like, what does a resume mean anymore?
No, this is why it's broken.
It's broken.
It's
Right?
broken. And
It's totally broken. So I believe structured data. I also believe in anonymity. And this is very weird, right? There's people out there, there's sites that are all about build your brand,
yeah,
build your beautiful profile, your picture. And I'm saying do the exact opposite because I want people of different ethnicities. I want people of different age. I want
mm,
people of different genders or sexualities to be treated equally so that the best candidate wins, right? So if you are no longer a white middle-aged male and you're
mhm,
just a data point and an African American woman is on the same level. Now we're talking resume and background and data points. The best candidates can win.
right.
So I believe we want to keep that hiring process anonymous as long as possible. Clearly, that changes once you meet in person, but we can whittle it down
Right.
automatically.
There has to be a way to whittle it down, because if you
Yeah.
throw a job rec out there for an operations role, you might get 400 resumes. Who's going to sit through and read all that? And even if you had the AI do it,
Yeah,
would
it's
don't you want to have your own criteria and then match it up to the structured data where it very quickly filters down to maybe the top five?
right.
What matches best?
Think about our industry. Let's say we set up this query and we get 100 candidates, and we'll just use a marketing director role or a director of IT role, right? Something really
Right.
innocuous, mid-level role. Most of the time, restaurant companies aren't going to pay a recruiter for that, so they're doing it themselves. When they post a job on LinkedIn, they pay by impression, meaning every time you see it, what I do is try to make sure the right people see it. That helps the company and the candidate. That is why I share the jobs. It takes 2 seconds. I would encourage other people to do it, but then I wouldn't be as special. So you go to Indeed and you get candidates that really don't have the industry specific
Right.
experience you're looking for. Regardless of where the candidate comes from, you still have a piece of paper that you have to manually read. If you're lucky, you have one of these talent development softwares, but they're not designed to help find the right candidate. They're
Yeah.
designed to exclude people. This has this, not enough words appearing this many times. All of that is AI. I am talking about not using AI. I'm talking about like queryable data,
Right.
keeping it anonymous. And then there's two other pieces to what I want to build: access to information. I only know my job history and what I was paid. If I wanted to change jobs, or if I'm going from a director to a VP, what is that really worth? What you start to discover is when you move up within your organization, you will not make as much money as if you moved up outside of your organization, because that becomes your chance to negotiate. If I'm a marketing director making $100,000 and our former VP was making, just make it easy, they're making double what I was making, they left. I'd like that job. They're not going to give me $100,000 raise. It's just not going to happen. But if they hired someone from outside, you know what they're going to tell them? The salary range is 75 to 200.
That's right.
So that forces people to basically be jumping around. But our industry, access to information, knowing what I could make, helps to level the playing field, right? So now you don't have Black women making 75 cents on the dollar. This is ridiculous. We're all doing the same job. We should be being paid equitably.
How does, let's talk about personality though, because I want to
Yeah.
understand how you envision. It's one thing to, as an applicant, as somebody that might want to use your service, and I fill out the questionnaire. I'm assuming it's like job experience, comfort level with X, Y, Z, A, B, and C.
Right.
Is there also a component to this matching that is, I don't know if it's a combination of a personality test or what do they call it? A Myers.
There's the
The
Myers-Briggs.
Myers-Briggs. I mean,
Yeah.
I've always found the Myers-Briggs stuff to be pretty interesting, actually. Like you can tell if you know what kind of personality you are,
Mm-hmm.
then you might also know how to deal with other types of personalities, or at least be given instruction to follow.
Yeah, I do. And I think that plays a role, but that's where you start getting down into specifics. So now we've identified some candidates. I think the personality type stuff is worth doing when you're really close to a hire. I think that as the site grows over time, if somebody wanted to partner, so we offer this personality, I view that as a partnership because that's not what I do.
Yeah.
We want our candidates to take this test. It's already embedded in our organization. And I will say sometimes, like for a sales role, specifically, you need to have a certain type of personality. Not that introverts can't be good salespeople, but it might depend on the makeup of the team or what they're selling or who they're selling to. If I'm an extrovert and I'm in sales and I'm selling to marketers, I want a specific kind of personality. But if I'm in sales and I'm an introvert, maybe that person is better selling to like accounting or finance, where they have similar personality styles. So
Right.
there are things like that. And then there's just the dynamics of the people on the team, right? You can't solve for everything.
That's right. There has to be a face-to-face. There has to be an interview.
Ultimately, here's the thing I think about this. So the automation piece is, have you tried to schedule appointments recently? It's a pain in the ass. You got this calendar link, that calendar link. When you're going for a job,
Yeah.
we want to hire as soon as possible, but the manager you have to interview with first isn't available for 3 weeks.
Yeah.
Absolute bullshit.
Yeah.
And if I want to get a job, I don't want to wait 6 months. These things all delay the process. It can be automated.
Yeah.
Very simply, we can connect our calendars now. If I knew that this manager had to hire in this time frame, I could set aside that time, automated, fill the slots. The candidate picks the available slots. That's one simple, low-tech way to do this. Another way is to record the interviews. If you really want to remove bias from your hiring process, what if Tammy, me, or an AI bot of me asked the same questions in the same order in a recorded format? Imagine you get on the computer and it's me saying, tell me about your prior work experience.
It is capturing you orally, giving that description.
Yeah. And
Right.
the
It's
person,
not Let me,
The
right.
person responds in their video, they have 2 minutes to provide an answer.
Yeah.
Then you can transcribe that and start to push
I love
through
that. That's genius.
somebody out there that's doing it. I do not believe a need to reinvent the wheel. It just becomes how do you put all the pieces together
Yeah.
and make this easier. So it's the structured data, it's anonymity, it's access to information and automation because I want those moms who are working all day. They're going to feed their kids and take care of that stuff at night. And then at 9 o'clock, why couldn't they get on and do their interview?
Right. Absolutely.
Oh,
And that same hiring
automate.
manager that's booked 3 weeks out can find 15 minutes to listen to the recordings.
And I think there's a ton of data that beyond just general salary data and information to level the playing field, you're going to start to learn things about tenure, right? Average marketing director tenure is 2 years, or CMO is now down to like 18 months. So guess what? I can see, oh, so-and-so's been at their job for 18 months. They're probably ready to move. You can also start to do satisfaction surveys. Imagine you get a text every quarter that you're in my database. Every quarter it gets a text that says, Paul, on a scale from 1 to 5, how satisfied are you with your job? You send me a 2, you get a follow-up text. So this all becomes like I'm getting you into the cycles. And the flip side, and this is what recruiters don't do, is that I could be marketing candidates, like taking you to people. Recruiters don't work that way. Recruiters get hired to recruit. They only care about you when they have a job open.
That's an unfortunate truth. It used to be the other way, though. There used to be recruiters that I would work with who knew me personally. Maybe one of them actually I landed a job with, but the other 3 vested a lot of time in understanding who I was and had their antennas up. But that's, I think those days are gone.
Yeah, it's changed a lot. I had somebody reach out a few months ago and great loyalty background working for big brands. And so like I saw it and I was like, she's a great candidate. And I just sent it around to all the people I knew in that market, sent it to a couple of the vendors that she had worked with where I have contacts. It got her enough fractional work to sustain herself. She sent me the nicest email this past week, basically just saying thank you. I don't know her very well, but she was a good candidate. And so that helped her. It makes me look awesome. Right? Because now I'm reaching out to people, not selling them anything, but here's a gift for you.
Yeah. I love that. All right, Tammy, time check. This has been absolutely awesome, but I want to make sure that we have a tradition here on Morning Spam where I like to ask our guest, give me a hate to tell you but. Okay, I really want you to try to bust a myth that's out there. Help me right or wrong or correct a misconception that you see. So what's your hate to tell you but? Have you given any thought to that?
I think just in vein of what we're talking today, your network is the most important thing in helping you find a job. Yeah. How do you build a network? Right? I think that's the real question. How do you
not just collect a network?
How do you do it sincerely? Like there's some people that come through our space, they have an idea, they come in, they're here for a year and then they're gone. A friend of mine said, we call them restaurant tech tourists. Like that's not building a network, but it is really important. And if you are new to the space, it's asking your bosses to send you to conferences. And if they won't, it's going like, I know, for example, there's a Denver restaurant marketing Facebook group. The restaurant business is the only industry where our customers eat out 21 times a week. So guess what? They're not going to eat at your restaurant 21 times a week, which means we can learn from each other. We can grow, we can share. So what I'd say is your network is the most critical thing in helping you find a job.
I love that. That's great advice. Let's wrap this up. I want to ask the audience that if you haven't connected with Tammy yet, hopefully by now you see the value in connecting with her. Don't just connect. Tag her in your invite where you heard her. Right. And then she'll get it back to me and that'll make me super happy. But Tammy, how can people find you? What are you doing now? And where are you going to be?
So right now I'm actually working as head of business development for Signal Flare AI. I am an advisor to Ovation. I might take on another client. I'm helping somebody else with product. I can't really talk about that yet. I started the women's group called Worth, and Most recently, I'm about to add my own podcast. One of the things that we discovered as I was doing a podcast with Paul Barron and really enjoyed it. And I said, there's really not a podcast for women by women. And I think he was starting one under his network. But myself and Erin Levzo and Chrissy Willette are starting a podcast that
Good
is for
people.
women by women in our industry. We're calling it Bite Sized and Bossy. Any of the ladies that are listening, we want all top to bottom of the spectrum. We're talking to vendors, we're talking to operators, we're talking to CEOs, we're even talking to like coordinators, right? How'd you get that first job? What are the things that are important to you? It is really meant to be uplifting and give women a voice in this industry. If you're interested in being on, text me or send me a message. Worst thing I can say is no or get in line.
I love it. And I want to remind our listeners, Tammy mentioned she's looking for partners. She's looking for folks that can help her develop this big idea that she has, that I'll tell you what, if you put it together the right way, it's going to be a home run.
Here's one of the things I learned about that, Paul, is like as I started talking to people and doing research to decide if this was a business or a hobby, what I learned was that every industry hires from within their industry.
Yeah.
When you go talk to people that work in insurance, they worked at other insurance companies. When you talk to people in healthcare, they worked at other healthcare companies. So those jobs are also likely very similar.
That's right. And there's room for improvement there. No doubt about it. And I know that you and I will be talking offline because I think that I may be able to help too.
Cool. Awesome. Looking forward to it. For having me on today.
Say again?
I said, thank you for having me.
Anytime. This has been great. Tammy, it's always great to see your face, hear your voice. Listen, this is Morning Sam, Morning Ralph, and we are clocking out. Thanks so much.
Cool. Awesome.